frames are essentially finite state machines. Long and the short of it is that means there's a limited number of states that this can represent. So you can have four buttons with up to, well, yeah, four buttons, and then each of those four buttons can kind of have their own screen and their own four buttons. So you could map out a total of 16 actions based on this. So as we can see, it will just kind of go through the logic side of it, just like not even thinking about code or anything like that. So we have this frame here that presents us with the four options that we've identified that we have. Click the button. What's going to happen is, so this button has an action associated with it. Yeah, the Farcaster docs basically say that each one of these buttons can correspond to like a call you can make to your own server, and then that call can respond with an image. So we'll see that here. We are clicking on the Samoa's option. So this actually uses, well, I'm not sure what it uses, but they're probably using this one package called Satori. So you actually can generate dynamic images as a response. And that's what it looks like is going on here. So I'm going to click the +1 button. It's going to round trip to the server and then respond with an image that it says 0 instead of 1. But the rest of the image is most likely static. So we click that one and boom, it blurs out for a second. While the request, we can actually even look at the network tab here too. So we can do that one more time. Close that. Oh, it's just refreshing it. Whatever. Anywho, so press +1. So it's calling their API here. Let's see what the payload is, just to have a look. Ooh, payload. This has like my device ID, user ID, got under 3K gang on the FID. Other information as far as like session IDs, timestamps, looks like a nonce or an event ID, something along those lines. So that sent it. Let's see, what was the payload? Did they have anything? So yeah, that was the payload. Response was success. The cast frame action. So this is so after you hit the button, you're getting a result. If it was successful, and then it takes that next frame that this person is rendering on the server, it processes it for you. You can see that B next. You know, it's just a magic value that signals to Farcaster you want to do your thing. Then embed a frame. You get the image URL that we were talking about before, and it is dynamic here. So yeah, this is a server rendered image with that's taking in some request params of cookie, and that's the cookie type and the quantity. So that's actually how it's rendering it. So it's sending this along with the request to the server, and it's just appending our information here onto the URL. So that's how we get which cookie we have, and then the number of cookies in our cart. And then we have our buttons. Let's see, -1 is a type of post. So post corresponds in this case to the HTTP verb post, which is how you send data across the wall. It's one of the ways you can send data across the wire
Yeah.
to your server. So you're posting here. Basically, this is the text title that shows up. That's -1. And same thing here. Index of 2 is +1, 3, menu, 4, cart. Let's see what happens when we hit cart. Boom, cast frame API action. So we can see here, same thing. And this is just the server responding with that image. This is the URL that we posted to get this response. And you can see it's /API/cart. And then the cart only has one button, which is choose more cookies. And then this will fire off a post request to their server again. I really hate how much that is in the background. Gee. Anywho, so we can go back to the main screen. So we click that post URL. Oops, actually, they have a typo here. I'm surprised that works. So yeah, you click on this. You send an order, and it looks like you're sending along with your order. Yeah, the cookie detail, which is what we looked at before. The type of cookie and the quantity. It knows how many we have. And that's basically it. We can minus, which will send, it knows, we click the -1 button and we have the quantity here in the URL. So we know what to do with the quantity. Let's see what happens if we go to 0. See if it'll let us go out of bounds. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it freaked out or anything like that. So good on them.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah,
this is like this is an e-commerce kind of like platform, obviously, right? So, and this is obviously, again, the whole thing is like what, 4 days old, whatever. And
yep.
the e-commerce was literally just introduced yesterday. So obviously there's tons of different like use cases for this, right? Like people can use this as an artist just to like display their artwork, display their portfolio. You could like mint NFTs. So what are
Hour and a half ish. Yeah, my plan for today was to just start from zero. I haven't actually. I've been looking at the docs. I'm gonna stop saying actually. I swear. Anywho, so yeah, I've already looked at the docs. I haven't written any code yet. I figure we'd all chew that glass together. Uh,
okay?
I, I have a repo for us to look at just to get you going. You don't have to worry about setting anything up. Then we'll go through installing dependencies, or maybe we even need to start before that as far as installing Node on your target machine. We will be using JavaScript. We will be doing server side JavaScript a little bit, just ever so slightly. So we will need Node.js. And yeah, we're at the top of the hour, so probably a good time to do that. So we're just gonna give you enough of a foundation that you can take what we do and copy it into Next if you were so inclined, basically, because it is kind of more or less web standard stuff.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. Bix was talking about maybe using some of the information to get the nouns coding club going. Who knows? But yeah, record it for posterity. I mean, it's a public good that folks that who don't want to jump into a starter kit that has 8 layers of abstraction, off rip. I can't imagine as someone who was just interested in frames and maybe know a little HTML and JS trying to jump into a whole next project and making that do anything for them. So first thing we'll do, uh, check, uh, actually see projects, make my font bigger here. Let's see, we'll make directory frame workshop.
wait, is this in your terminal?
Yes, lost all my shortcuts recently. Frame.
So if I did the same thing, am I gonna have like CD projects? What's that?
Oh, that's just my okay. So yeah, first thing. Sorry, I forget how much just like intrinsic context there is to doing these things. Yeah. So you want to open up your terminal. If you're on
Okay.
Windows, you can either use Command Prompt. I'm pretty familiar with that from my Windows days, or PowerShell, but I am a lot less familiar with that. So feel free to do whatever works for you. On Mac, you just want to open up Terminal. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, that's it. And then as you like shit, I haven't opened regular terminal in a while. Where does it start you out at?
I
Looks like
think
it starts you out in your home directory. That's pretty normal. So your home directory, I don't think I have anything terrible in
would
here. So
Bix
yeah,
just want
this
to
is
use
where
the
like
terminal in the Visual Studio Basic or whatever.
yeah, you could also use it in there. Same thing. That would actually probably be better for most folks rather than. Thanks for that. Yeah, if you don't want to use your terminal app independently from the code editor, the terminal or the code editor also embeds like the terminal program from your system, so you're good on that. So on Mac, it's going to drop you into your home directory. Bix, you're asking like what is slash projects? Projects is just a directory, like a folder that I have on my computer in this folder, basically. So
Okay. So if I just do the next the the VSC, right? Studio Code. And then I just click in here. I have like this project up that I was already kind of doing. So I'm just going to click new window, right? And then start from scratch here.
yep, you can do new window. Just the front end stuff will work.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
new
then,
window.
yeah, new file.
Yeah, dude, I never do it this way. I'm sorry. You guys might know more about how to do it with the user interface than I do. Uh, so before we go doing, I'm gonna save you guys a whole bunch of trouble here, as far as like setting up a project and all that. So what you want to do is go to your menu bar and go Terminal, New Terminal, and that'll pull up the terminal for you at the bottom or wherever you.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool. And if you have any issues, just feel free to interrupt. Not too many of us, so we can keep it simple. Oh yeah, Visual Studio Code. All right, cool. So is everyone? If anyone is not in their terminal, say so. Splendid. All right, so I'm just going to minimize this for now. So what we want to do, and I'll drop the link. I actually have my own little TypeScript starter project that I use for everything. All you want to, I have made so many assumptions. Does everyone here know how to use GitHub? Can you click buttons on? No, then that assumes you have a GitHub account. All right.
Yeah, I can do that because you have to download it and then you have to upload it into your Visual Studio Code.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so we can do this either way. Let's see, code. This is going to be what most folks have. So yeah, from the command line, if everyone would just hit git and type in git git and then -v, and if it comes up with a version number, you're good. If you're not, let me know.
GIT and then just a -v.
Space. So the command is git, yeah, and then you do -v to get the version.
Oh, okay. 2.43.0.
Oh, nice. There you go. So you're all set. What about everyone else?
SQX, you good?
He's probably doing. He's
Okay,
good.
he said good. Okay.
Nice. All right. So, yep, we're all set on that. So Git works. So what you'll want to do is, did it give me the whole thing? Yeah, cool. All right. So in your terminal, from this link that I'm putting in the attached chat, you'll just do, once you copy the link, you do, minimize that, git, and then the command clone, and then you paste in that link that I just put in the chat.
Ooh, doing something. All right, it's working.
Yeah, and I'll repeat that. No big deal. But I'm just gonna remove that. And so yeah, again, that was git clone, and then that link that's there in the chat, and it'll start cloning it. And it's gonna clone it into a folder called TS Starter, which is fine. But if you want to name it something else, you can just put a space after that .git link, and it'll clone it into that folder. So I got it. I cloned it, but instead of it being in TS Starter, since I gave it a folder name to clone into, that's what it did. So then, so you have this on your hard drive now, wherever you were at. That's where it's at. So what you can do is, if you didn't change the name, you can in the terminal, type in cd, that stands for change directory, or move to a different file, and then you'll go to TS Starter, which I also have that on my computer. I just won't be using it for this. So yeah, that'll put you actually in the project folder that we'll be working off of.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it didn't like do anything. It just came
Nope.
up blue. Okay.
Yep. And then a good way to check. So, the command line's kind of weird. Doesn't have any visual feedback by default. So the way I like to check that I'm where I want to be is I type in ls. I don't know what it actually stands for, but it means list in my mind. And list will tell you what files are in the directory you're in. So you should see a license. Code is licensed. Very important. README. You won't have some of these directories yet, like dist and node modules, which is fine. That's a result of building it. But you should have the package lock, the package JSON, a source directory, and a tsconfig file.
Yep.
And yeah, like I said, I'm just going to keep, kind of keeping a decent pace. But if you have any issues, please speak up. I will help you out gladly. So let me go to what I'm actually going to be doing. Frame workshop. All right, cool. So what we want to do here is we want to check if we have Node.js installed. So we'll just hit Node V, and actually, I want to use 20. So as long as whenever you type in Node-V, it has a number, a version number greater than or equal to 16 something, we're good. I think we'll
Yep.
be using anything terribly new. So I just have the most recent long-term support version, but 18 is fine. 16 is a little deprecated, but if you're just using it locally, yeah, 18 is fine. 18 and the even version numbers are always the long-term support. They usually get 2 or 3 years of updates and things like that. So that's a version of Node. You always want to be on the even, most-ish recent version of Node. So if you've got, 16, 18, 20, good to go. And then, all right, so we can actually, start where you're at. You have Node installed, which is great. So what we need to do now is install our dependencies, and we're going to do that with npm. You just type in npm and then space install, and it should happen pretty quick because I don't have that much in here.
Good to go.
Yeah, it should have said, added 14 packages, audited 15, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Found 0 vulnerabilities. Cool. So as long as that went well, you might have any issues with the npm install. That just gets our base level dependencies in there. We have TypeScript. We actually don't have a lot. We can look at what we have installed for anyone who's curious. My font a little bit smaller. So yeah, don't worry about that. So yeah, we have our package file, which just I made my font giant. Sorry, I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit. You guys can still see that, okay?
Yeah, how did you get there? Because I'm in the terminal of the VSC, and the terminal's fine. But then how do I get where you see all the stuff on the left and the right, like it's an actual working window?
Oh yeah, so you should have a shortcut configured. So type in the word code and then space and then period and then enter.
Just code space period.
Yep,
It said
and then enter.
command not found code.
Oh, you don't have the that's weird. Okay.
Oh, maybe I just go open it. Then maybe I have to open it. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, you'll go, open folder, be the easiest way to do it. And let's see. Yeah, projects, where's that at? Projects. And then, what was it? TS, the TS starter. So you can just open it like that. And whenever you get into the TS starter directory, you just want to open it there.
Okay, now I see all your stuff. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I'll keep VS Code open here. I don't use it too much, except for front end stuff usually. So yeah, this is just the basic package file. Has our commands here. Everything's just, if you're ever interested in an up and running, super minimal TypeScript project starter, I like mine. But yeah. So what we want to do here, the issue we're trying to solve is creating or having a web server that can respond to Warpcaster with these specific documents, those small snippets that we were looking at earlier. So what was it? Cookie something or other order. Yeah. So these right here, this is all we need. We need a way for Warpcaster to be able to read this little bit here from our server. I'll probably even steal this. We can totally just embed this in our first frame or whatever. It's pretty cool. So yeah, this is all we need. We need a way to render this little bit of HTML here. And if you have an HTML file on your computer itself, that works great if you pull it up in the browser, but it doesn't let anyone else look at it. It's just what we call client side. So we need to get our code onto a server. Um, I don't know what the best way to do that for most folks is going to be. We can kind of look at that. I'll show you where I would deploy it. I intended on deploying mine to Railway. Railway is awesome, but we'll look into that. But yeah, so we have this model here where the whenever you include the link to your website, Warpcast is going to like parse it and look for these meta tags, and then that's how we're going to get the frames with the buttons like we were looking at before. Let me go ahead and grab the docs here. This is the developer docs. They have them in Notion for what you need to do. A lot of it's kind of what we've already talked about. The meta properties that we were looking at, the images, buttons, our magic requirement here for the vNext, all those good stuff, for all that stuff we were looking at before. And it even tells you, this is literally all you need to create a frame. It's incredibly simple. And we're going to look at how to get our server to send this back, essentially. What this is just it's a regular, string. There are some basic data types in JavaScript, numbers, Booleans, which just mean true or false, numbers, and strings. So this one, a string is just a bunch of text. And then your browser knows to render this. Well, in this case, I guess Warpcaster knows to render this as a frame based on all that. So we're going to get our code together to give us a server that'll render this whenever Warpcaster makes a request to us to get this information. And yeah, that's really the gist of it. So we're going to touch on, a little bit of server side stuff. I don't think we'll be doing anything with Next or React. There's really no reason to. There's no front end, as it were. Your front end, it's funny, we like to meme about front ends, but the front end for your code is built into Warpcaster, like we were looking at before. So we just want to send, when Warpcaster pings our server, we just want to respond with something like this or something like this. Because this is the entirety of the response from this person's server. I don't think there's anything else that got sent down over the wire from the server. Yeah, literally this one document. I'm in the DevTools in Chrome, and we can see here on the network tab that the only thing that this website did was send us this one document. And this is my dark mode and stuff like that, so don't worry about it. There's no styling or anything. It's just this markup for the frame. And that's basically what we're going to do. So we need a server. There are a lot of choices as far as Node.js and JavaScript and servers. I have one that I really like called Hono. It's a nice word. I think it means fire or something like that. In a non-English language, I don't know. Very uneducated, uncultured American. Oh, no, it means flame in Japanese. There you go. So,
that sounds fancy.
yes, I like this because, if you've done server-side JavaScript before, you're probably familiar with things like Express, maybe Fastify. Express is old and slow. Fastify is a bit complicated for this approach that I want to do. So Hono is really simple. There's a bunch of other developer considerations that make it really awesome. A short list of those are you can run it on the edge, which just means you can put your server really close to an end user, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It'll run anywhere. It'll run, on Cloudflare. It'll even run on Vercel. So if you already have a Vercel account, you may have to do some different configuration, and maybe we can look at that. That may be the simplest way. I know a lot of folks are familiar with it. So we can look at that. You can run in Deno. Basically, anywhere that you can ship JavaScript code, this runtime will work. This server will work. So let me make it a little bit bigger. So we need to install this dependency in our package. To keep it simple, we're just going to use if you're on the website here, actually, like that too. Where's Discord? So we're going to go to that link right there and then click on the getting started. And when you have the getting started open on the dropdown, I guess I could have just linked to that directly. You want to click on the Node.js option. and just kind of follow along. But we'll go through it here. Mm. Oh, this has you creating the app this way. Interesting. Let me figure out what we need to do then. I think I did use the starter last time, but that's fine. Yep, cool. So we can just do npm install Hono. So from your terminal in VS Code, just do it like that. From your terminal in VS Code, you go npm I for install, or you can type out install if you're so inclined, and then just Hono, Hono, and that'll get everything we need to set up a server, which is really awesome. It's pretty straightforward. Well, I'm sorry,
Oh,
I shouldn't say
wow.
that.
So that's
But
kind of crazy. So this Hono just it like automatically just knows. So like, what if I don't know, like what if someone misspelled something and did like HOJO whatever, and that was like a whole different like thing. They would just install something without knowing.
yes,
Okay.
potentially,
Okay.
potentially. So if there's a, I have misspelled, and malicious people will do stuff like that. So yes, you could in fact install the wrong dependency if you go npm install a package name that actually exists.
Yeah. Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
interesting.
it doesn't look like there's anything called Hojo specifically, but there is something pretty close. So I mean, it is possible that you could do that. But yeah, if that package exists on npm and you type it in there, it will install it, whether that's what you meant to do or not.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, we got Hono. We're good.
Yep. And then we can jump back to the docs here. So we have our little hello world example that we can look at. Let me just go back to the terminal here. So status. Cool. Yep, that's it. So what we want to do is go to, so this is back. You guys will be in VS Code. You want to go, I'm getting tempted to just do this in VS Code, but I just work in my terminal. So in VS Code, you'll go to your source directory and then you want to pull up the main.ts file. And this is where
Sorry, when you say the source directory, I have.
SRC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's my fault. Sorry about
Yep.
that. All right. So delete that. Okay, cool. So this right now is just a turbo basic make Node.js print the term or the words hello world to your console, but you still need a way to do that. So if you're looking in VS Code, you can open your terminal again down here at the bottom, and then what we'll do right here, whoa, way too big. What we'll do in our terminal is type in npm because we want to run a script with our package manager, and type in run, and then space between npm and run, and then space again. So we tell npm which command that we want it to run a command, and then we tell it which command we want it to run. So in this case, that's dev. It does a bunch of stuff for you. Again, that's all being set up properly, and then you should get hello world in your terminal. That's how you know you've got Node set up correctly and that you've cloned the project right.
All right, we're good.
Nice. Anyone else have any issues, need any help, have any questions, anything along those lines? Welcome the folks who joined after the fact. If you need me to catch you up, let me know. Hype, Mike, glad to see y'all. A lot even rolled in. Gang's all here.
Alpha. Yeah, boy.
No news is good news. Oh, wait. I heard you saying something. I saw the input, but I didn't hear anything. Nope. All right, cool. So yeah, like I said, if you have any issues, questions, please just interrupt, speak up. I'm just going to assume silence is compliance in this case. So yeah, we have hello world writing to our terminal. Well, you'll notice you're kind of stuck in the terminal. It's not doing anything. It's sitting there flashing at you. So we need to tell it to stop doing that. You just want to hit control, and while holding down control, hit C, and that sends the interrupt command to the program. So yeah, that'll put you back in your regular terminal. You don't need to do anything else just yet, but whenever you want to see your code or you want to run your code, you go to the terminal, type in npm run dev, and it'll run whatever's in this main.ts file here for you. So I could change it to, and it's watching. So we don't have to reload the file every time. We could say GM will announce. Cool. And then boom, GM will announce. So yeah, you can make that say whatever you want, and now you're a certified hacker. So there you go.
Nice.
So and we can actually look at the code here. Said actually again. We can look at the code here. We're declaring a function. The function name is main. That's just convention. Nothing that I've really done here as far as naming matters. You can call stuff literally anything, and I mean that literally anything, and then call the function right here. So yeah, you have your function. This is a keyword. This tells JavaScript that you're going to give it a name and then potentially some other stuff. So we have the name, which is just basically any series of characters. There are some limitations, such as I don't think this can be a number. Yeah, off rip, it has to start with a letter. Some other restrictions, but just generally you can pretty much call it anything with letters. I don't think you can have dashes in here either. No, or slashes or any of that. So typically in JavaScript, we use camel case, which is where we separate words by capitalization. It's pretty good. Some other stuff like Rust will use like dash case, also fine. But if you want to follow, you can't use dash case for like function names and things like that in JavaScript. So just use camel case. Simple enough. So cool. We've got GM will announce. We're running our function. Let me run this back. Save it. Okay. All right, cool. So we know our node works. We know we can run it, change the name of it, whatever we want to do. So let's actually look at the docs, and we're going to have basically our server running, but your server is only going to be running on your own computer. So we've already done the install here. If you're looking at the getting started docs like we were before, we're in the Node.js section, and then we're on heading number 2, hello world. So you can type it out, you can copy it, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to copy it because it's all boilerplate. Like you're not getting any smarter writing this kind of code. Oh, interesting. Well, we'll go through this together too because I forgot to install dependency. Excuse me. So you can copy and paste this code, and if you've done what I've told you, you should actually get an error. Let's see. This error says module not found, and we got some red squigglies. So that's my fault. I forgot to install or have you all also install the node adapter. Don't worry about it too much. It's just what makes this code run on our node server. So what we can do here is we can, in this string after the input, or I'm sorry, the imports, we can just grab this and install it. So what that means is we'll go npm I, and then the package name, or you could type it out if you wanted to, I guess, but you just want to put it exactly as it is with the red squiggly, node-server, and then this will install everything now, for real this time, that we need, and then the red squiggly goes away because it can now do what it needs to do. So we're importing our node server, we're importing Hono itself, which is going to take care of getting us online and everything like that. So those are our imports. So this is code of somebody else's that we're pulling into our application. Someone else was awesome and put this code on npm. We can use it, make all of our application servers with it, and everything like that. So distracting.
We
All
should
right,
send them
so
a
yeah,
fruit basket.
Yeah, I mean, open source is comically underfunded for the amount of people that use it. So yeah, if you like Hono, go support the developers on GitHub. They would probably really appreciate it. Whenever anyone gets paid for open source work, they're always very genuinely surprised. It's very nice because no one is expecting it. So yeah, we're bringing in the code from our other application, or I'm sorry, someone else's code to our application. What we're doing here is making use of that imported code. So we are declaring a variable and assigning it to Hono, which gives us basically all the functionality of Hono. And we can do everything we need to do based on this new app variable that we're declaring. And as we can see right here, we're taking we're taking the app, and this is again is very implicit. If you've done web dev before on the server side, you probably recognize this. What it's doing here is taking one of the HTTP verbs. For those that are unfamiliar, HTTP verbs, the request method. Basically, there is a specified way that HTTP servers request response. Clients and servers deal with each other. They have these verbs like get. Well, I guess they're not all verbs, but most of the ones you're going to be using: post, put, delete. These all are all indicative of an action that you intend to execute. So the ones you don't usually see are your GET requests. These are whenever you go to Google. Whenever you go to Google, that's actually sending a GET request. It's getting data for you. So you typically won't see those too much in your day-to-day life. Like visibly at least. You'll interact with them all the time. Anytime you pull up a website, there is a server responding to a GET request to your browser.
Oh, you
Without
were
it.
going to
With-
use API calls? Is that you'd have to do that? Like if you wanted to like
request, and it would respond. If that route exists, if the address that you've specified exists, it will respond to you with whatever data it has. So get's a big one. Head, you don't really have to worry about too much, although that one is handy. Post is whenever you want to put, not put, because there is a put. And some of these are just actually semantics, but post is whenever you want to send data across the wire to a server typically. As you can see here, it says it submits an entity to the specified resource. So that's kind of vague here. Typically what we're talking about, an entity, if you're talking about like front end, back end development, normal web dev, you're sending a bunch of strings basically that are encoded a certain way. And usually those strings are used to render your UI, the data in your UI specifically. So yeah, this basically just says you're sending data across the wire to a specified server is how you can think of it. And then often causing a change in state or side effects. Basically, you're sending data to a server and something might happen because of it is the long and the short of this. And then like put, I think is pretty similar to post, but it is semantically different and it does technically mean a different thing, but yeah, they're kind of used interchangeably in a lot of places. I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing or not, but it is what it is. But yeah, in theory, if you're doing a put, you should be replacing all representations of a piece of data. Doesn't really matter. And another big one is delete. So, if you've ever deleted, something off your to-do list or something along those lines, it probably just sent a delete method to the server and sent along like the ID of it. So those are like the super basic HTTP request. Like the whole web works like this. If you understand this, you kind of understand like a fundamental part of how the internet communicates is with these request methods. So all of that to say, what we're doing here is we're instantiating our new app server. We're setting up the server to respond to a GET request, which, we saw that over here. Basically, it's going to give us some specified information. And so we go app.get, and that sets it up to take this specific sort of request. The slash here refers to the root route, or if you went to Google, that page we saw that first loads up. So if someone were to go to, I don't know, mulf.wtf, that's my personal website. If someone were to go there, this was set up there. It would respond with this hello node. It's just the URL of a given resource without anything after it. It's the home or the root route as it's known. So we take that. This is just like the address specifier. So when we'll look at this, we could have it set up as like slash API, and that would be a thing. We probably will do that just to differentiate between like server actions and client side stuff. So yeah, anywho, we're setting it up for the root route. This is a function, so probably a callback function that gets executed whenever someone makes a GET request to the home route of our server. And right now it's just going to respond with hello Node.js. So that's kind of what's packed into that line right there. Is we're setting up our app server to handle to provide data to someone. Could be anyone, could be a user, could be a server, whatever. We're saying with this get method that we want to give you something. So come get it from us, basically. And then just passing in the C is context is kind of hard to explain. Context has a lot of the built-in functions of this code that we're importing with Hono. And we'll dig a little bit more into that as we go on, but it just has a lot of helpful methods and it has a lot of functionality built into it. It's a lot of the functionality that we're getting from Hono here. So as you can see, it's taking this context object and saying we're going to send a plain text response, and that plain text response is going to be hello Node.js. So we set up the route, and then we're telling Hono to serve our app. So if we go npm run dev, and you can do that in your terminal, I guess. Actually, one thing to do, because we haven't done anything wrong, but one thing it's useful to do is to add some debug messages. So we'll go console.log server is running. Save, and boom, npm run dev. Our server is running. So right now, what's going to happen? I think it defaults to port 3000. Let's have a look. Yep, it does default to port 3000. So in your web browser, what you want to do is it's kind of a meme to share localhost links. Let me do it right here. But if you have the server running, the npm run dev, and then click on that link in Discord, you should see hello Node.js in your browser. So you set up a server. What you just did there, if you're seeing Node.js, is you set up a server on your local machine. It doesn't exist on the internet yet. It only exists on your computer right now. And, obviously your browser is on your computer. So you set up a web server that responds to the root route, the base route, whenever you log in, not /API or / anything else, to respond with plain text of hello world. You're officially a web developer. There you go.
Wait, I have a question. Maybe this isn't
Sure.
a big deal, but so where it says like hello world on yours, it shows where it's the one with 2 dashes, like the quotation marks, and then on mine it's only showing where it's 1. But when I run
That's fine.
npm
JavaScript does not care.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that's a great point. Another fun, and I'm saying that with air quotes, another fun part of JavaScript is it doesn't care whether you use single or double quotes, but but you can't embed one inside, or I'm sorry, you can use one inside of the other. So if I came in here, and that's kind of tricky too, because if you put like an apostrophe in a string, you have to escape it and things like that. But as long as you're using one or the other and not them together, it's fine.
Okay. So I just tried to click the link that you sent, and then it's just giving me like localhost -3000, and then the site can't be reached.
Okay. What are you seeing whenever you in your terminal? Does it say, is it do it when you hit npm run dev?
It says hello world.
Okay. So did you miss the part where we copy and pasted this? I think you may have.
No, I got that in there. The Hono node server, import Hono from Hono, constant app, new Hono.
And did you delete the other code? I guess I probably should have specified that.
Yeah, I just copied it over, and then it says serve app.
Yep. And you said it was saying hello world in your console. It should be saying it in the browser.
Yeah, no. If I do npm run dev, it shows in my terminal hello world.
Did you save
I
the
think
file?
you haven't saved the file. Yeah.
Oh, did I what? I didn't save the file?
You didn't save the file. You got to save it.
Oh, just what do I do? Just save as, and then just.
Yeah, it's the shortcuts for that are like operating system. So if you're on Windows, it's Control S. If you're on Mac, it's Command S.
Okay, so Command S, and then it says server is running.
Splendid. All right, so now go back to the browser and refresh.
Oh, okay, hold on.
on the
Oh.
local host port
Oh,
3000.
we're working. We're working.
Yeah, you're a web developer now. Yeah, so
Let's
save your
go.
files often. That's another. I as a that still happens to me sometimes. I'm like, what the hell? Why is this not working? And yeah, I forgot to save a file. It absolutely happens to the best of us. So cool. So we have a server that can send some text to a client. In this case, the client's us with our web browser. But we want the client to be Farcaster with frame information. So we basically just need to respond with what we were seeing here, where it says creating the initial frame. That's an example. We just scroll down a little bit, and we just want to grab this green stuff. Well, whatever color it is for you if you're on light mode. Just grab this string right here. Everything from this backtick to the ending backtick, inclusive of both of the ticks.
Oh, so we don't need the
Uh,
rev status 200 or whatever? Rev status
Nope.
200?
Nope,
Okay.
you sure don't. Yeah, everything inside the parentheses, from the opening parenthesis to the close, would be, I guess, a better way to say it.
Okay, but what happens if someone did copy that? Would it just not work?
This looks like the built-in. It's either probably Express.js or the built-in HTTP framework to Node.
Okay.
Because res typically means response. So they're responding with a status code of 200, which HTTP status codes are a whole other thing we can look at. But we're sending a response, and that is affirmative and not an error. And we're sending that response, this string, this document that we looked at, that this is the entirety of the frame. So this is all they need to send. So
Okay.
whenever and I actually haven't, maybe that's something we can look at together. But I've never tried to put a frame on Warpcast yet. For those of you who don't know, we're doing this all for the first time together, not the writing of code, but the figuring out the Warpcaster or frame part. So we'll be going on that adventure together. So yeah, we just grab the string here inside the parentheses and go back to our code. Yeah, server's running. All right, so back in our code, what we want to do is, so we were talking about these little helper functions that we have right here. This one, we just responded in the browser with text. Well, we don't want to just send text in this case. So the context object has a lot of really awesome helpers for things like this. So we're going to change it from text to HTML. And that'll give us the opportunity, or the ability, excuse me, to respond whenever someone makes this GET request. It'll, instead of sending them text back, it'll actually send them HTML. So that's what we want to do here, and not worry about that too much. We'll just throw in our backticks right here. So yeah, this will actually tell the browser that we're trying to send it some HTML. And I put that outside. I'm trying to auto close my parentheses. There we go. So we're setting up, yeah, that's basically it there. We're responding with HTML instead of regular text. And this is just the doc type, basic HTML information. What I do want to do here is grab an image just for our initial proof of concept. Actual image, you can link to any image you want. So what we were talking about before in the intro a little bit was that Farcaster frames are static images with some markup. This markup specifically, button, the FC frame button, and then the number 1 through 4 that it is. So yeah, basically whenever you're rendering, or whenever Workcast is rendering a frame for you, it's that small HTML that we saw with these associated tags. But to start off, I just want to embed an image. So what we have here is what I think is the absolute basics first. Yeah, this is the absolute basics. With sending the frame, the vNext, the content, and then this is under the creating the initial frame section of the docs. We're just not going to make buttons for right now. We can, and we'll get there. I just kind of want to test it incrementally to see if I've totally screwed up yet or not. It's entirely possible. So yeah, we're just going to include these top two here because it's going to be static. We're not necessarily interested in any kind of responses, dealing with users or anything like that right now. So
Oh.
this,
Can you post the URL that you got of that image just so I can stick that in as well?
what kind of response we get in our browser now. So save your file and hit refresh and see what happens. All right, cool. So it sent back HTML that time. And maybe we don't even want to do that because they were just sending a string down. Let me have a look here. Yeah, localhost document. No, it's the same. Just rendered a little bit differently. So yeah, we're embedding here. We can see just like how we saw on, was it the cookies website? Bring that back up. Cookie caster. Oh, it's already open. Anywho, open this one and look at the same thing. Let me refresh here. The cookie caster, they got some additional. Yes. Oh, this is the actual website. But yeah, we can see here. Where did it go? The FC. Try cookies on frame. Cookie caster. Yeah, there it is. So yeah, I think they're just responding with the string. But if we look here, they're responding essentially with the same stuff that we are. Let me put these back next to each other. So we have our HTML head, and then our meta properties, which is the frame with the content. That's the frame and is that frame image? Interesting. Oh yeah, frame FC frame image, same thing. So yeah, we are indicating that we want to render a frame and that we have an image. So our browser didn't know what to do with this, and that is correct. The browser shouldn't be doing anything with this. We don't have we don't have any body. We just have a complete HTML document that is all head. It doesn't have any body, anything like that. And this is strictly for Workcaster to try and figure out what to do with it. Okay, so in theory, we have a completely functional. But yeah, in theory, we have a completely functional. Let me see. Frame. It's totally static and boring and does nothing. Can't respond. Doesn't have any buttons, but we have a frame. So this is the part where it gets a little bit trickier. So if you refresh your page and you get this blank screen, you're doing the right thing. That means you're sending HTML back. And that's good. That means it's not just rendering the text. That means our back end and our front end, it picked up our change. It's not just spitting back out that plain text. But this is the part I was talking about before where we have to figure out where we're going to host it. Because Workcast can't right now, it can't query our server because our server only exists on our machine and it needs to be available on the wider internet. So there's not really a turbo super simple way for me to do this. I'm just going to use my provider of choice, and you can do the same thing. Can't really use Vercel because they're looking for API routes. I guess you could restructure the folders, but I haven't used Vercel for API stuff in a while.
Wait. So
Yes. I am personally a really big fan of Railway for my infrastructure stuff. I endure AWS at work because I have to. But yeah, for launching my one-off stuff, it's either this or Fly, but Fly's a lot more complicated. So yeah, long and the short of it is pick a hosting provider. If you just want to take my recommendation, it's railway.app. If you have a GitHub account, you can have a Railway account, or you can sign up without it, but I recommend linking your GitHub just so you can do a very easy wire it all up and get it shipped. So what I'm doing now is committing my files to Git. You want to use Git as much as you can. This allows you. So right now, in theory, your code is working. I haven't heard anything from anyone, so I'm assuming it's working. Right now, your code's working. You want to protect this state of the universe, if you will, of your code. If you screw it up in the future, you want to have a checkpoint, if you want to think about it that way, to come back to. And that's what we're doing right now. So I've added git add and then the period. The period just means your current working directory. And that'll stage all of your files. And then you commit with a message and we'll say init classic. So that saves our files to Git. That commit -m just means you're committing and specifying a commit message. And then you should get a response with the hash of the commit and kind of the changes you made. So you all, yeah, see, this is where it gets into GitHub and stuff like that. And you kind of have to be a little bit, have a little bit of the tooling and stuff like that. So if you have a GitHub account, basically what you want to do is go ahead and set up a repository. Let's see, and we'll call it what is that? Hold on. GitHub repository. You don't want to. You can add the name. You can add description if you want to, but you just need a repository to hold your code. And then once you've done that, I know I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but yeah, if you already have the code, so you want to follow this second option here, just copy that line by line to get it into GitHub. I know that's not necessarily turbo user friendly, but
Oh my god, I just got here and this is so amazing. Oh. Where are you?
Alpha.
Yes.
boom. All right. Anywho, add my remote origin. I already have branch main as my default. That's fine.
Oh, Zargs, just to catch up, we're going over like the frame stuff. So we went over the docs, and essentially we were kind of just going through like step by step in how to do stuff. So
Yeah, we're almost to our first, static frame here. So once you have your GitHub repo hooked up and you pushed your code, that's everything we just did. You should have a README from the TS starter stuff and all that.
And you put
So if
all
it
the
looks,
links in the chat, and I love you. Thank you. Are we recording this?
I think so.
And thank you, Big Spite. Awesome.
So yeah, basically where we're at right now is we've written. It's a good place to recap. I'm sorry, I'm not over here right now. Over here. So what we've done here is we followed the Farcaster docs and set up our own little server as far as being able to render the most basic, incredibly static frame that you'll probably ever see on Warpcaster. But this is just sending some information over the wire with the specified tags that are in the frame specification. And we're just using these top two right here because we're not going to put buttons on here just yet. We can look at doing that here in a sec. But yeah, we just at least want to be able to get something in a frame at this point. And maybe for like a follow-up session, because we are nearing like the time here at the half hour, we can look at maybe adding buttons. You can make it into like a series or something. It doesn't necessarily keep up with the hype meta right now, but we're focused on kind of the in-between stuff, getting your hosting, getting your GitHub, all that good stuff. So just depending on where we end up. So with all that said, we have our very basic document that we want to render our frame. And I was just going through the reason for setting all that up on GitHub is because we want to deploy our code on a server. A lot of folks are familiar with Vercel. It'll take a little bit of additional config, and we can look at that maybe a bit later. It takes a little bit of additional config to get an API up and running. You just have to have stuff in a specific folder, I think. I don't remember exactly how it's supposed to be structured. But I'm just going to use Railway. You can find them at railway.app. If you have a GitHub account, you can have a Railway account. Just gone through the new project flow here. And the reason, that I set up the GitHub repo was to be able to do this. And what do we call it? Frame workshop, boom. And then we just hit deploy now. And Railway is awesome. This should be up in like 2 minutes or so. But yeah, this will, and then we should, as long as I understand correctly, all we should have to do is take this link that Railway is going to give us, because it's going to, another reason, I pay them, but they don't pay me anything, just to be clear. But the reason why they're good is they're kind of all in one. They'll give you a URL. You don't have to have your own domain. The free tier is reasonably generous. Yeah, just stuff like that. So if you're interested in pretty off the shelf server solution that you can just hook up to your GitHub repo, this is the one. Oh wow, since we're active already, that was expeditious. And so we see here in our deploy logs that our server is running. Where is my domain name? Should have one. There. Oh yeah, here we go. Generate domain. So this will just give us. So this is our frame workshop. Oh, it gave me production because I'm fancy, I guess. So we should just get the white page. Interesting, what's going on here? Nothing yet. Let's hit refresh. Interesting. What is going on? 404. So there's nothing here yet. Interesting. Probably have something wrong in my config or something along those lines. But
Or maybe it hasn't generated everything yet. It seemed so fast.
that was incredibly quick. Very interesting. Yeah, it's frame workshop main. I'm on main. Yep, main source. Let me try a few things. Build. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Railway. Work. Public network. Yep. Has to bind. Yep. Process.env.port or 3000. Yep. So we'll need to make a quick tweak to our config, change the port number. So we can see here that our serve takes in some options. Change the port number on the serve. So we'll just come over here, and this is just some networking stuff that you don't necessarily need to worry about. Well, you do need to worry about, but the details of which are just mostly for like infrastructure and getting stuff deployed. Yeah, I just don't like the. What is that? I guess we'll find out. No idea what that is. And TypeScript is mad, but I honestly don't care at all. So. Right, let's see if that did it. Variable port 3000 and add deploy. I wonder if it's going to complain about that because, yeah, of course.
AI.
Right. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
I literally built the thing to write people props on with AI. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I'm going to shield myself right now for a little bit. Anyone who is a gardener, I would really appreciate your vote. I built Nouns GPT, which some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not be familiar with, but it's trained on actual on-chain proposal data, and it knows the outcomes. So if a proposal was successful or not successful, and then everything that was in the prop information, all that was uploaded to the GPT as it's not training information because you're not like actually training it, but it's like context that's provided to the GPT. So if you need help, um, you could use it for Prop House. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap there. It's specifically trained off noun style proper information. If you supply it with your idea for a prop that you want to go on chain with, or can get someone to sponsor you to go on chain with, it does a pretty great job. Honestly, I'm surprised because it's got that information and it's told to focus on helping people write props. So if it actually wasn't me this time. All right, so let's see if putting this in Warpcaster does what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to cast Brain Workshop Test. I wonder what's going to happen. I won't bother anybody with that. Cast. Do I need to do something special? So let's let it know. Maybe I do. Maybe I shouldn't just ship it. Oh, Warpcast embed tools. Do we have tools? I
Dun,
like
dun, dun.
tools. Oh,
Who's got the alpha soundboard?
there we go. We do. This is super awesome. So there is, I'll drop this link here too.
Sweet.
Boom. And this is to debug your embeds.
That's a beautiful thing.
There you go. Oh, I'm pasting their link in there. Man. All right. Anywho. Close up some of these. Hey. All right. We're working. Grab this. That clearly is not working. Frames. Interesting. So we have missed something, apparently. I wonder if it's because I sent it as HTML instead of text. Just try this real quick. Okay, and because Railway is awesome, it'll go ahead and redeploy it for us automatically. Doing all that stuff. Let's see if our deploy logs come up. Publish time. Where we? Oh, we're active. Cool. And then maybe that'll respond with just the plain text this time. Maybe not. Still trying to. Maybe it just takes a minute. I should have responded with plain text. Failed to respond. All right, it's probably there. It is. All right, cool. So yeah, this is the same thing. So it does have to be text. So for those of you following along, it's mistaken. We do actually need to send text instead of HTML. So instead of it being C, was where it was initially. Isn't that always how it goes? Would have been fine if I hadn't changed it. So if you had c.html, you want to do c.text to make sure Farcaster knows what to do with it. I assumed incorrectly on that one. Let's try this again. Still nothing. Interesting. What are we missing? So we've got the Farcaster frame and the image. FC frame, content v next, image. What are we missing here? Let's see. I use next. Let's see. This will be probably on page. I hate trying to read any of this stuff. Get old. Here it is. API vote. Do we still need to have the regular? We may still also need to have the regular Open Graph metadata information. Let's try it with that. And for image URL, I'm just going to use the one we already have. Our head, let's see. Where did it go? Wyoming is not all right. The So apparently you can't just submit the absolute minimum, which is crazy. I guess maybe I misunderstood. It does, yeah, this says creating the initial frame, created with simple open graph tabs, create a URL which returns the following metadata. Show up as a frame, blah, blah, blah. Guess we'll find out here in a sec. Let's see. All right, so that gives us back what we want. Oh no, is it because there's so much space? But it should just be a regular. Interesting. Aha! There it is. So we did need to give it the initial OG information. So that's very interesting. Not necessarily an issue, I suppose. So yeah, we do want to also give it the regular link preview information if you're familiar with that. So that's good to know. Cool. So yeah, that's a frame. We actually have, well, I probably the only one because of the server hosting, and I can help you all, do that kind of individually. But our code, at least in theory, now with the fact that we've added back this OG information, this is kind of a lie. We did just copy that and say vote recorded, so it's gonna say vote recorded as the title. Obviously, you'll want to change that to whatever you want your frame title to be, and the OG image is just that regular open graph metadata that we're familiar with. That be. So yeah, that's my first frame. It's the worst image imaginable, embedded with no functionality at all. But we are using the frame protocol to do something. So yeah, I guess if anyone has any questions, I know we're getting towards the end here, but I still have time. Want to make sure we get folks up and running, as much as possible, because the code does work. It's just that extra additional part of getting it, where it needs to be in order for Warpcast to be able to talk to it. So, floor is for you all.